story thing.
I formed a company with Mr. Kazunari Tomi, and the company's name is Studio Alex. We went to Game Arts to promote our business, and we told them we would like to make an RPG game with a compelling story that was something different from other games that existed at that time. After playing the Lunar game, if people would say, we have to live in a more positive fashion, live our lives looking to the future, that is the kind of game I wanted to make. This was the motive that inspired the Lunar game.
You had this great story, these characters that you cared about, and you were interested to see how they got together at the end, Alex and Luna. It played out more like a movie than a game because of the animated sequences along the way. It kept getting the player back into the game.
A large percentage of the games that come to the US originate in Japan. They start in Japan and they're reworked for the US audience. We were the first independent CD-ROM publisher in the US. So I'd heard about Lunar, and I really had no preconception about what it was. I was thinking of some sort of moon game.
When we saw the Sega CD version of Lunar, we knew that that was a game we wanted to do. It was a great game.
They had a CD-ROM system that was single speed, 150K a second. You could only spool so much data off of that. So you couldn't get really involved animations. You had a limited amount of video memory, a limited color palette. There was lots of limits.
Games with good stories cannot be made without CD-ROM. And because of that, Lunar started with Sega CD, then a Saturn version, and then the PlayStation version. Whenever there's a better means of expression available, we will use it to express things better, and that's why we made the PlayStation version. People might ask a question such as, which version is the authentic version? Sega CD or Sony PlayStation? Or is there any difference? But I think they both reflect the story of Lunar. I believe the Lunar world actually exists. The person who tells the story may change. Before, Mr. Sega CD tended to often forget things, and he didn't pay attention to the details of things. But nonetheless, he was the storyteller for the first Lunar. This time, Mr. PlayStation, who is more sensible, smarter, and has a better memory, with more capacity for expression, told the history of the Lunar world. The first storyteller sometimes forgot some of the characters, or told the ending in rather finalistic terms, while the new storyteller told us much more.
My friend.
Since the Sega CD version of Lunar to the PlayStation version of Lunar, we have rewritten the latter half completely. The biggest difference is the description of the heroine, Luna. In the Sega CD version, where the main character, Alex, leaves the island, they part. If that's the case, though, we felt that people might not feel sympathetic toward the heroine, so we changed that in the revised scenario. We also increased the number of characters in the game. The development of the enemies was a little weak, so we added some enemies. I believe there were only 2 or 3 minutes of animation for the original CD version, but now there is about an hour of animation. As for the voice actors, in the first version of Lunar there were only 4 actors, but now there are about 15 voice actors. In terms of imagery, there was quite a bit of upgrading, so there's almost no comparison.
There's been quite a few changes actually to the scenario in Lunar. Definitely the characters are older. There's no age actually given, but they're definitely older than the first one. And I think that that was to strengthen the love aspect of it. But also, another reason they were aged, as I understand it, is because the people that had played the original had aged too. And so they wanted to keep it so they could still relate to these characters. Wokusan, his art designs are great. Huge fan of what he's actually done with the Lunar characters and what he's also done with anime, because he doesn't just do game characters. He actually is involved with manga and anime. He's done some very popular stuff in Japan, like Giant Robo animation series.
As for special training, I really haven't done anything such as going to a specialized animation school or learning from someone else in particular.
全部
Everything I learned by actually doing work.
その時自分が、
To design the costumes, I suppose I was inspired by what I saw in movies, magazines, and people around the city.
ルーナのスカーフなんかは当時
For instance, the scarf Luna wears is an idea that was inspired by a nurse's outfit at the dentist I was going to at that time.
これは
This is the storyboard for the Silver Star story.
手ですね。でざっと
There are about 45 to 46 scenes here.
でこれで
Once this is accepted, we start the actual animation by placing orders for the scenes to animators.
今回のリメイク版のルナからは、デジタルペイント
For the remake of Lunar, digital paint was used instead of celluloid.
上がってきた動画を
The drawings were first scanned and then painted with a specialized software.
ということで、一連の動く絵ができるわけですね。でそれができた
And sequenced as movie clips. Once that is done, the next steps are taken. Editing, retaking, and soundtracking, just like any other animation.
あとの作業は、普通のアニメーションと同じような流れで行われています。戦場のルーナっていうシーンでかなり
Computer graphics, CG, was used a lot in the scene of Luna on the boat, such as this part where the ship moves.
動くところとか
The ocean is a regular 2D background. The ship is mostly all CG.
二次元の普通の背景なんですけれども手書きの
Also, these night bugs, somewhat like lightning bugs, are done in CG.
一種の 3D のその利点っていうのは手書きでは
The advantage of 3D is that it is possible to create objects that are difficult to draw by hand.
大元の作業を発注します。
First, we give the layout to the 3D person, who creates something that moves like
こう
this.
いうふうに動くものを作ります。
We print that out as a wireframe, and we give that printout to the animator.
としたのがこれぐらいが
For one scene of Luna singing,
これを
there was
アニメー
this
ターに
much
渡して
printout.
作ってくださいと。アニメ
We gave it to the animators, and we asked them to complete it within a week or so. But it actually took 2 months.
3DCG を私はソフトイメージ
The 3D CG was rendered using soft
ソフトイ
image.
メージでレンダリングされた
We
ものを
combine images rendered by soft image with the images that are colored with the
で
Macintosh.
合成して、部分的なところでタッチ
Then we
して
do partial touch-ups.
でそれを、
We then complete the process using QuickTime,
と
etc.
かで、完成
We edit the QuickTime movies using Adobe
プレ
Premiere.
ミアとか使って編集します。
やっぱり普通に
Usually, when you are involved in a production as an animator, your involvement is very restricted.
作業する領域が限定されちゃうんですね。ルナにおいてはそのプロット
But in the case of Lunar, I was able to be involved in not only the plot, but also the scenario, and even part of the game making.
関わることができたんで
他のゲームですと大概の場合あまり仲良く仕事をす
In
る
other games, most of the time it is difficult for animation staff to work so well with the game staff.
それがルナに関しては本当に
With Lunar, we could both work well together, argue well
協
with
力し
one
合え
another.
たし議論も戦わせることができたし
The long period of time involved in this project allowed us the opportunity to exchange
お
ideas.
互いの意見っていうのは交換できたので
We all gained a lot
非常
from
に
each
収
other.
穫になりました。
で全体のスケジュール
Objectively speaking, the boat song is not a scene that is directly related to the game.
関係ないということで
When our schedule was getting a bit
切ってもいいんじ
tight,
ゃないかという話
it
が
was
確かに
suggested
出
that
ま
we
して
cut it for that reason.
あとそのシーンがある
By
ことで
having that scene,
ゲーム
I
と
thought it would be
か普通
possible
に
to
アニ
show
メーションで
Luna's spirit through a more interesting approach than those used by typical games or animated
情
illustrations.
感を描けると思いました
I insisted very strongly to keep this scene,
それは主張しまして、
and luckily the producer and others accepted my
皆
opinion.
さんも僕の熱に負けたのか
music makes up the world of Lunar. The magical spells are cast based on the musical songs. And that's pretty much your first scene with Luna, is she is singing. So the music is a very important part of this game.
I think the music is very important. There is a good chance that 70 to 80% of a scene's emotional impact can be attributed to the music. For example, this time we had the very talented Mr. Iwadari from the very beginning, which was very lucky, I think. The music he makes moves people's hearts. I was in charge of the music for the first Lunar, the Mega CD, Lunar the Silver Star. And since then, I have been in charge of all the music in the Lunar series.
Iwadari does the actual music composition for Lunar, a number of other things too, but in this particular case, he does the composition for Lunar. His company is 2-5. He works very closely with Isao Mizuguchi, who does the arrangement and the lyrics and such for the songs.
The scenario writers and graphics people will tell us specific places they would like to use the lyrics. I will first ask them what kind of scene that is. For example, what state of mind is the heroine in when she sings that song? In what situation does that particular song come out of her mouth? The song is the heroine's, though I write the song. For the listeners, the song is sung by the heroine naturally in that situation. Lunar the Silver Star included about 38 songs or pieces of music. And among them, a main song emerged, which was the song of the festival that Luna sang by the natural spring. This was a very important song in the game. And the image it created was one I wanted to keep. All the other songs were created according to the image of Luna that existed in my mind. These amounted to over 100 pieces of music. It took about half a year to complete it. After I made the first song, however, there was a layoff for a hiatus. But I wrote over 100 pieces of music. So I needed about half a year. Usually when people complete an RPG game, they feel it was great. But for Lunar, because I received postcards, I know it is true. I get comments like, "I cried for the first time after finishing an RPG." I look at the mail from the users of the game and at the home page, and I see descriptions of them saying something like, "The tears come out when I listen to the opening song, Wings." People seem to be attracted by songs. And I hear these messages that say, "When I listen to the Wind Nocturne, it exposes the heart bare." There are some battle songs that people seem to like that make them feel heartwarming.
Things you have to isolate when you're looking at a Japanese game, as far as what's its suitability for the US, is the language, because there is some stuff that's acceptable in Japanese language even, that you can't use in the US without getting a stern rating. For example, in Cosmic Fantasy II, which is one of the games we did for TurboGrafx, which is a pretty innocent game overall, there was a scene where one of the characters flipped off another one in a close-up. So we had to change that to she was shaking her fist.
We pretty much take the main plot points, throw away the rest of it, and write it in an American style with a bunch of cultural references that people can relate to. even though it's set in this mystical world, you still have these pop cultural references that allow you to get an attachment to the characters. And people tend to get more involved in something that they can relate to.
One of the things we're known for now is the translation. The quality translation, the fluid way that people speak, the natural way that people speak.
If we hurry, we may be able to sneak in without waking the dragon. Then we can get a fantastically huge diamond from its lair worth thousands and thousands of silver, making us filthy, stinking rich and very popular in the process.
In our games, we always try to improve it, add some gameplay element that improves the game, makes it more fun for the user, or easier to play. We added some personality to some of the characters, like Mite's lab. You had this guy in this tower, this inventor, and he's all up in this tower, and you have to go through this huge thing to get this maze to get up there. And we're like, well, why was he so isolated? You know, he's like a hermit, a recluse. And so in the US version, which wasn't in the Japanese one, we had him suffering from tremendous body odor. So that's why he had to be isolated. And so he makes comments of that ilk.
You're trespassing! Go away!
I'm sort of a professional hacker, right? They've already written the code, but it doesn't really work for English. They have, the Japanese character set has thousands, tens of thousands of characters, whereas in English we have a relatively small defined set of characters, but the words tend to be longer because it takes more characters to express a thought. They gave us a space of 38K to actually put all the text for a particular section of the game, and the English text can get up to 72K in size, so I had to write data compression to squish that text down so it would actually fit into memory, and that's been a major battle for me.
Welcome to the Magic Guild of Vane, Alex of Berg. I am Galleon. My apprentice Nash speaks quite highly of you. He said you cleared the trail for the White Dragon. I didn't make it.
The actors for the first one were John Truitt, who's the voice of Galleon, and probably the most well-known of all of them.
He said you cleared the trail of the White Dragon. Is that true?
Voice from Galleon, you sort of have to rest your body into it and enunciate every single word clearly and just enjoy every delicious sound. I didn't realize, when you see the people making cartoons sometimes, you think they look kind of ridiculous because they've got their hands moving up and down and they're bouncing and they're jumping around. But you actually have to do that with your body in order to get the right sounds and the right inflections coming out of your voice.
To get the right performance, usually it doesn't take much more than saying, this is your motivation, this is what's going on here. If you're jumping or whatever, do a little jog in place to get yourself out of breath a little bit and then do it. But sometimes you have to do extreme methods, and the favorite story of John is the warm milk from Wendy's.
We were filming something and I was supposed to be choking or coughing on something, and we came up with this wonderful idea that milk would do the trick, and I think that I must have downed something like 1.5 gallons of milk while I'm trying to hack up all this sputum and all this phlegm and all this stuff that would make it sound perfect. I was a little sick after that.
You come in and you kind of memorize your lines first of all, because a lot of times you have to match the video and you have to lip sync it exactly.
I mean, you've got to really, really fit the voice into the action, into the allotted time that you have, because the animators have done their job first, and then you have to go back and you have to fit your stuff in with what they've done. So yeah, it can be really, really tough.
Victor, he's my husband's best friend and they've been buddies since high school. He called me up because he needed a little cutesy voice and a little mousy voice. And that's what I have, so.
Jackie Powers does the voice of Null again.
Well, it's really exciting to come in and there's a huge sound booth and people and chords and contraptions everywhere. It's easy and it's comfortable for me to get into the part of Null, being that he's mischievous and a close friend, and it seems like a likable character overall.
And Ashley Angel did the voice of Alex in the first one. Originally, we were going to probably ditch his voice because he had grown up too much, and after having heard his voice again, I'm like, he doesn't age that much, maybe we can use his voice, because it's kind of nice because the character has grown up in the game, and if his voice is a little bit older too, that's okay.
I think I'm a lot like Alex. I really do. In what way? I like to be the hero. I like to be the guy that gets the attention at the end, and I like to be the guy that saves everybody. Especially Luna, and she's a pretty hot cartoon. It's a lot of fun, being in the recording studio, doing this kind of thing, being the voice of, a cartoon, basically. It's acting, and it's what I love to do.
And then Hal De La Housse does the voice of Quark, which is best dragon voice hands down ever. Cinema anywhere, take your pick. It's a great dragon voice. He's pitch shifted, obviously, but he has a nice rumble to his natural speaking voice so that when he talks, it's just grr, comes right out.
You are the first adventurers to visit me in a long time.
A dragon is huge, and it's needed to sound huge. So by pitch shifting his voice down, and of course, usually in most cases, the dragon's in this nice big cave, and so that lends itself to some nice big reverb, and when we get done with it, you believe that is the dragon's voice. In the case of Nall, we pitch shifted her voice higher in order to make it sound like it was coming out of a little creature rather than out of a normal woman's voice. It also helped mask whether or not it was male or female.
Alex, couldn't you hear me? I've been flying around for the last half hour looking for you.
But I should have known you'd be here.
Try a little more. A little more like you do very well.
Alex, couldn't you hear me? I've been flying around for the last half hour calling for you.
But I should have known you'd be here.
One of the best things about Victor is that he doesn't write the script and then it's etched in marble, okay? The product isn't finished until it's in the can.
If we're getting there and we're looking and saying, there's not enough syllables, or there's too many syllables, or what's another word for, how can we say this a little differently because it's not long enough, it's too long, whatever. And he's always open to suggestions if we need a new word, something like that.
Okay, let's try that scene 3 again with Luna.
Victor's a demanding person, and lots of times to get the line just right for him, you have got to do it 30, 40, 50 times, however many times it takes.
And we'd spend so much time on one line, so I have to hand it to him for that, for being so patient.
One of the lines happened to be a screaming part, and we did that too many times for my own good. I think we had to wait a while because my voice kind of went away.
We may have 2, 3, 4 takes of a particular line, and then usually Victor and I will sit down and he'll listen through them and pick one or maybe 2 choices of a particular line. Then once those have been selected, I'll go and drop those into the game where they belong and see if we got any problems, begin lining up the dialogues and adding sound effects and maybe nipping and tucking if we're a little long or a little short, something like that, to match up all the lips.
They make fun of me sometimes, but it helps lighten things up so that it's not so serious and hard to do. So we clown around a lot.
There's been times when an actor and actress, they're just, you can tell they're uptight and we need them to loosen up for something or other. So we'll play certain sound effect CDs.
When he tries to make you laugh, he puts fart noises in the microphone.
I haven't found a person yet who could keep a straight face during a certain set of sound effect CDs.
Wishing on a dream.
Jenny Steigel does the singing voice of Luna. She has a boat song in the second one that wasn't in the first game, and she does the singing for that. She also does the singing for the opening song, too.
I've always wanted to sing. The boat song, more or less, is talking about Luna. She's not sure where she's headed, what she's doing with her life, and she has a bunch of questions about herself, and she's talking about that in her song.
When we originally started translating the games, I used to try and stick as closely as possible to the translated lyrics of the songs. But somewhere along the way I figured out that that really didn't convey the emotion of the songs as well. So I decided that if I took into account the author's original intent plus the feeling that I got from the scenes and just rewrote the lyrics entirely, we ended up with a much better overall song, which is true in the case of Luna with the boat song, which the English version turned out to be a much more melancholy and reflective song than the Japanese one.
Wishing on a dream that seems far off, hoping it will come today. Into the starlit night, foolish dreamers turn their gaze, waiting on a shooting star. But what if that star is not to come? Will their dreams fade to nothing when the horizon darkens most? We all need to believe there is hope.
happy, Victor, people?
We're pretty much control freaks on everything because we want to make sure that from start to finish, the game is handled correctly and properly. By doing this deluxe packaging that we're doing, it becomes a collector's item. We have people that still have our packaging from TurboGrafx, still have our games from Sega CD, and they keep them because it was great packaging. And with Lunar being the great game that it is and one of our personal favorites that we've done, we wanted to create packaging that the consumer wanted.
We play games. We're fans ourselves. We just happen to be fans who make games.
Pretty much that's a standard requirement for being an employee at Working Designs is you have to like games and you have to play the games.
When I played the game, it's probably been the biggest thing of realizing, hey, we did some good work here. We're able to sit back and look at it.
とにかくルナの各プロデューサーは
Each producer involved with Lunar sought such a high level.
こう描いていくかということには随分神経を使ってきましたし、まあルナが好きだと言って。
I feel that the people who are very fond of Lunar are able to sense that fact in some way or another from the production.
からうまくこう受け取ってくれてるのかなっていう気がしてますけども。
求めてるレベルが非常に
Everyone demanded such a high level. When it was all done, I felt such satisfaction to show everyone the finished project.
It's a huge privilege to be able to be a part of that.
And it's a good memory to make, something to tell my children about.
I think this re-release of Lunar is going to be big.
It's actually, it's more or less, oh my gosh, brain fart. What did you even say?
Take two.
Yeah, 3.
Good. Busy. Oh, come on, give it some emotion.
Yes, sir.
And action.
And so, I've totally lost my thought here.
こと得まして。
I can relate to that. Molesting the goddess Athena. It's all so exciting.
He's dead based on the fact that he lost his life.
Let's do that one more time, please.
He's dead because he died.
But that's a spoiler. Don't use that.
Okay. That was really good. I got a nice shirt out of the whole thing, which is kind of cool. You know, I can say, hey, you know, I was in that game. I won't have a nice car to drive or any other clothes to wear, but I'll have the shirt.
You didn't hear that, did you?
She was just this bodacious, pink-haired bimbo.
And then, well, that's pretty much it, actually.
At 7 o'clock on a July morning in 1999, young citizens of Tokyo began to gather outside a shop in the Akihabara district. They were here for a chance to meet two of the creators of Lunar, Toshiyuki Kuboka, the artist who designed the Lunar characters and the world they inhabit, and Kei Shigema, writer of the Lunar scenarios. Lunar Eternal Blue is, for me, it was my very first game when it was released for Sega Saturn. The characters are very good. Each heroine of the series is very cute. That's why I like them. The world view and music and illustrations are very pretty. I can see that they didn't skimp on anything when they made it. I can see it in the game. Which scene was the most difficult to create when you were working on each game?
いや本当にかなりたくさんの人たち。
Quite a number of people came to see us, and this was the first time for me to have an opportunity to meet in person with the Lunar fans. I believe this was a very valuable opportunity that I was afforded. Even though it was planned rather quickly, there were so many fans that came. In addition, they spoke of Lunar in such enthusiastic terms, so I was very happy with it. I also noticed that there were more girls than boys present, which I did not expect, and that made me feel good. Though I had to get up early to come here, it paid off, and I am really, really happy to have this. This is Lamina that Mr. Kuboka drew for me.
One of the things that really just blows me away is the fact that the US version of Lunar 1 was imported back into Japan by fans in Japan.
Eternal Blue is in the genre of a role-playing game. There are animations in the event scenes, and those animations are very high quality. And the story is also very efficient in terms of appealing to the players. I think Eternal Blue is one of the greatest RPG games to utilize animation that was ever made. This is a game, but this game is a work of entertainment. Therefore, I believe that with a game like Lunar, which was well received in Japan, there is no way that it won't be well received in America.
You know, when everything comes together, you know, the art, the music, the storytelling, the characterization, you know, creates a world that's just magical and it sucks players in. I think that's why Lunar is the hit that it is.
It was very, very popular in Japan when it was released. It's been released in like 4 different versions, both 1 and 2. And then when it came to the US, it has gained momentum with every release. Every release has been more than the one before.
The most enjoyable thing for me as a producer is to recognize that people from all over the world will respond to our games and say, for example, "It was great." Creative people, like me, prefer fan mail to money. This was the maddening project we plowed our lives into that by any means just had to be made. First, when we made Lunar 1, there were some things that were left undone. The creators involved expressed a desire to finish what they had left undone.
And there were a lot of things they wanted to include and wanted to add, but couldn't, either because of time factors or because of the hardware limitations of the Sega CD.
Since I am a producer, I believe I know everything. But many people are involved with the project. Perhaps as many as 100 people are involved. One difference between ourselves and other companies is that everybody who has their own expertise, such as scenario writing, illustration, music, and producing, got together and participated in the creation of the story itself. We talked about the story setting as a sequel to Lunar 1. We actually wrote a plot along those lines. In that plot, the original Lunar 1 characters, who had become older, would do an adventure with the new characters. This created the problem of having too many characters to deal with. So, in the middle of our planning, we changed the story to the present one. The flow of the story is one where the heroine, Lucia, never associated with a human being before. But by encountering Hiro, she experiences human emotions, one by one. So we deal with this rather difficult theme.
At the start of the game, Lucia comes down from the Blue Star. She's basically an alien who happens to speak the language of Lunar. And by the end of the game, she's grown. You've seen her grow into a real person. Someone who feels emotion, someone who feels love.
The way that they handled the bath scenes in Lunar 2 was to make a comment on Lucia's growth. The first bath scene is Hiro and Ruby, and then Lucia walks in. And Lucia is completely unassuming. She walks in naked and she's like, well, you know, there is a girl's bath, but I want to take a bath with you. No sexual overtone on her part at all, but she was just completely unaware of, you know, what was going on. But by the second scene where she's bathing in the spring and Hiro walks in on her, the reverse situation,
she's embarrassed about her nakedness. When she hears somebody's there, she covers up because she's embarrassed. And it's a great commentary on sort of humanity in a very subtle way.
In the Lunar series, we wanted to describe real human-like characters. This applied not only to the main characters, but also to ordinary characters who lived in the town also. We wanted to describe them in real human terms.
You want to play a game and experience characters, and you want to watch them change. That's the core of any good story. So every character in Lunar 2, as with Lunar 1, does change. And by the end of the game, you like what they've become.
These days, there are so many outrageous stories involving people's deaths, etc. But rather than producing that sort of story, I have been pleased to see a story like ours, where a boy tries to rescue a girl. That sort of rather normal story was well received.
A fighting game or a shooting game, those are easy. But to develop a role-playing game, which is the reason why people have stayed away from them for so long, is because it's hard. You have to make characters that people like, and if they don't like it, that's the end of the franchise. There is no sequel.
The thing that is different from movies, novels, animations is that the game players actively interact with the product. Especially in RPG, the player and the main character become united. And that is one of the secrets or keys to make it a most enjoyable experience in the RPG. Regarding our hero in Lunar 2, Hero, I wanted to make him a little bit more talkative as compared to Lunar 1's hero, Alex. Lunar 1's Alex had some rather transparent characteristics. I wanted Hero to have a little bit stronger of a personality. In that regard, I believe we succeeded. The storyline for Lunar 2 was also a somewhat more sophisticated type of story. So we tried to make the characters appear in a little more realistic manner. This is the main character in Lunar 2, whose name is Hero. As an initial setup for this character, he was living in a remote desert area with his grandfather. His character was supposed to be an adventurous one, like a treasure hunter. I wanted this design of Lucia to appear in something that looks like a uniform. Here she is wearing a medallion. With this medallion, I tried to symbolize the relationship between the Earth and the Moon by its design. Since the character will become smaller on the game screen, I try to make sure that each character will have some prominent feature besides the clothing they wear, so we can distinguish the character even if the size is small. The previous animation, Lunar 1, was more for purposes of effect. For example, a huge mysterious castle appears in the script, etc. There were many scenes that had a significant visual impact in Lunar 1. But this time, the animation was more drama-oriented. There were many scenes in Lunar 2 that showed the inner struggle of human beings presented through the images displayed. Japanese animations are done differently from those done in American animation. In American animations, they make the dialogue first and adjust to that dialogue. We call this pre-scoring, matching the dialogue and writing it into a plan that is given to the animators. The drawings are then done to match the dialogue. However, in Japan, animators construct the images, and then, according to those drawings, voice actors will add their part while watching the animation. First, we create the drawing based on the original artistic rendering. We then use the computer to paint the color into the drawing. This is called Paintman. Like this, we paint by hand, many sheets, one by one. As this drawing shows, character itself does not move. When we want to move only hair, if we put hair and character together, we have to make many drawings. And there's also a danger that the character may look a little different. We therefore make hair by itself. When we film it, we put the two together. it will look like the hair is being blown by the wind. The graphic data created on the computer is rendered using Macintosh software. At that time, the background is filled in with a watercolor drawing. The director, Toshiyuki Kuboka, was originally an animator. When he looks for beauty in hand-drawn art or detailed artwork, he turns to watercolor paintings. Subtle variation in shade of color or thickness of paint layer, the subtle accents created by the touch of the brush, these things cannot be done quite well enough with the computer. First, when the camera moves from one end to the other of this overlay, we slide it slightly to give it the 3D effect. The floor here is where the character walks. In front of that, we place this one, and then we place this one on top of that. The screen itself is moved while the character is placed in the center. This produces a pretty good 3D effect. This is the regular method we used here for this type of animation. We scan it with a scanner, and on the computer screen we add various adjustments and effects. After that, we place the character drawing on top of this background. We also adapt 3D CGI for use in these works. This 3D CGI consists of light wave images. Using this, we make a composite that results in two-dimensional images. We can also take a hand-drawn picture and render it in a light wave image. There is a scene where the blue star is captured by the camera as it approaches the Earth, and then at the end, it enters into the tower and captures Lucia. That was something we wanted to do from the time of the Sega CD or Mega CD. At that time, however, technically it was a bit too difficult for us to do. So this time, since we were able to do that scene, we hired a special design expert to help with this scene's effects, and we devoted a lot of time to it. The most difficult scene was at the end. We used the CG there also. A scene of a spectacle was very hard. Since this is a game, the scenario keeps changing throughout the creative process. We therefore have to rewrite the scenario and Ikante to match the game. The spectacle scene towards the end was added onto the existing art as if there is a summit with fog around it. And when we reached that point, we discovered another summit yet to be reached. This is Destiny, a battleship built for the land. It has a fin part that allows it to advance, to move forward by moving the fins. The modeling is very complicated, so when we complete one, we will use it for many different scenes. When we first make the original model, it takes a considerable amount of time. However, once made, to actually run the model through its movements does not take that much time. Natural things such as ocean, clouds, smoke, etc. are difficult to create. To make them look real is a challenging task no matter how much experience you have in doing this. Nature is difficult.
Gonzo went nuts with the CG stuff, and they really did come into their own, blending that with the traditional hand-drawn animation so that you get this really wonderful mix of 2D and sort of 3D CGI that looks like 2D hand-drawn.
Music accents the playing of the game. Without music, playing the game is so empty and lifeless. Music expresses the emotional climate. There are a lot of pleasures associated with composing music, but at the same time, there is a lot of pain as well. When I started working on these projects, I started to get gray hairs around here. However, I enjoy creating music. Especially matching the music to the animation scenes is enjoyable. Usually most composers want to use their time composing music for movies or popular songs. So I feel we were very fortunate to have someone like Mr. Iwadari who understands music but who was also willing to participate in the making of the story and expressed his opinion and created the music to match the story with a lot of emotion. As for Lunar Eternal Blue, the image was somewhat more grand and mysterious. We used the piano as our main instrument and added orchestration to it. I felt that it required a more worldwide sense, and I therefore included ethnicity to the music to some extent. Among the characters who appear, there is a girl named Jean who is a warrior. The place where she lives is called Carnival. It's a fun place. We wanted to give some sort of specific character to this town, and we therefore included percussion-type instruments like the tabla, which is from India. And on top of that rhythm, we thought that adding guitar and violin would make it more fun-sounding. Also, for the villages, we included some Indian music using the tabla as well. In the orchestration, we use Debussy and Ravel type of music. I personally feel that we also have Sibelius included in it. By using the influence of Sibelius, we try to express the cold weather scene. Even though it is Northern European, I felt that gypsy was also in it. So I tried to include an element of gypsy in it as well. For the sounds that are heard in the game, we use the internal sound of PlayStation. We use the Sound Designer 2, and we also use software that is specially designed to be used for the PlayStation, that converts the sound for use in the PlayStation system. If I click this, you can hear the sound of the bass drum or cymbal or tambourine. This is the sound of the oboe. We just put each sound in a timeline. Then we will mix it at the end. For example, like this. Originally, this music would be produced by an orchestra, and then we have to convert that into this small 200 kilobit memory. This was the hardest point, and it demanded a lot of work. My company does Lunar's game programming and graphics. Also, at the completion of the game, we finish it in CD form. There was a huge quantity of graphics. For graphics, we used about 30 to 40 people, and the rest were project planning and programming. There are people who work on backgrounds and those who work on the characters, and they each make their own products independently. But then we put them together, and we see how well they complement each other. The hardest thing involving my work is that it doesn't leave me much time to sleep, especially as we approach the end of the project. First of all, in the morning, I don't get up because I'm already up. I've been up all night, and I program and eat and program again. Since we made the game in such a way that everybody can complete the game, I don't see any player having any problems. But if you get hurt, it is best to go back. That would be the quickest way. If you push yourself too much, you may end up being defeated even by a rather weak enemy. I don't want the players to win quickly. I want them to enjoy the story, and I believe it is much more enjoyable to take your time in playing the game.
There's a tremendous amount of things that you have to do when you're localizing a game, which is sort of more than translation, because translation sort of implies just text only. We changed the audio from really low sampling stereo to 38 kilohertz, which is almost CD quality mono. So you get much higher quality sound. Maybe change the music around, increase the memory card system. We almost always have to do that. Then we make programming changes. We'll add DualShock usually. Analog is like a given immediately.
Well, the save systems suck because it only allows 3 save games per 2 blocks, and it also checks both cards before you even start the game. So I changed that so that it would only check the card once you tell it that you want to load or save, and I'm trying to get a minimum of 21 saves per memory card.
First thing you do is add analog support, because now with the DualShock controllers, you don't bust your thumbs, moving diagonals and stuff, because you have that nice, smooth analog stick.
To make the animations look better, I changed the resolution from 256 by 224 to 320 by 224, which makes all the artifacting really small so it's hardly noticeable.
With Lunar 2, I mainly do all of the graphics for the manual, all of the packaging, and a few of the in-game graphics that we had to change that were kanji or Japanese characters.
Ta-da! Congratulations, you're a winner!
Our philosophy of translation is different than virtually anybody else out there because rather than do a literal translation, we try to do the translation, find out the spirit of what was said, and then write in that same spirit in English so it feels natural.
The Japanese writers are fond of puns, of rhyming words in Japanese, but that doesn't translate, of course. You know, you'll get a joke that translates, "Pickle, I thought you said baseball card."
So we'll put something else in there that's very American that people will get and laugh at and have a good time with.
I know I shouldn't look a gift horse in the mouth, but what kind of cheesy puff is that?
If you just want to go with the main narrative, all you have to do is accomplish the major events in the game. But if you're looking for a more enriching, rewarding experience and you want to know more about the world of Lunar, you can go talk to more people and find out more stuff.
And that's the cool thing about Lunar is it has so much text that if you really want to take the time, you can find a bunch of stuff that the average player isn't going to get.
Your world is in grave danger. I must see Althena immediately.
Another major thing, obviously, is that we record the voices. We do all the voiceovers again, we remix all those in. When we decided to do the remake of 2, and we were getting down to recasting, I kept all the characters from the first one where possible. One exception we made was with Hero.
Come back, Lucia!
I wanted a hero who sounded a little bit more assertive when he was yelling, a little bit deeper, a little bit older, but not too old.
Wait!
Actually, Ashley Angel, who was the voice of Alex, the lead character in Lunar 1, he was a friend of mine, and he introduced me to Victor, and we hit it off, kind of went from there. And I had a small part in Lunar 1. Hero does have quite a big emotional range, because he gets angry when he is exerting himself, especially in the opening sequence. He cries at the end, and that was difficult to do. You gotta have Mountain Dew, and you get your throat kind of going. We have a monitor in here and kind of do the lip sync, and we have to get it in with the inflections with movements and stuff. I should have brought Grandpa's chisel. This is way harder than I thought. Ugh.
Not bad, that was okay.
That was pretty damn good.
I play Lucia. She's the princess from the Blue Star, related in some way, shape, or form to Athena, the goddess. She's just sort of a sweet little girl who wants to help, but she can be angry when she gets angry. I must go, Hero. Lucia and Hero, there's a point where they could say goodbye. I remember making it, just trying to get the real emotion in there and making it realistic and not sort of a fake goodbye scene.
I play Ruby and I play Jean. Ruby is the little annoying pink dragon. She is kind of Hero's sidekick. When I heard her at first, although it was spoken in Japanese, I could tell that she was kind of a wench or whatever and kind of stuck up. And so then I could just go from there and kind of apply my own wenchiness or whatever to that character.
If you can't shut your eyes, I'll do it for you!
You have to look down at the script and then look back up at the screen to make sure you're staying right with the movement of their mouth and look up and down.
I'll keep talking and the voice or the mouth will stop on the cartoon or vice versa. So we need to add or subtract syllables. So it's a lot of fun finding words that mean the exact same thing that are longer or shorter.
My name is Lumina Alsa. You have just officially passed.
Lumina is the lord of this vein, or this world. It's like the Magic Guild, and it's not really a big deal anymore because it got blown to bits in the game before. So to her, it's a big deal. It's fun, but it's exasperating sometimes. I mean, it's a lot of fun, but the things where you have to like fake laugh or fake cry, that's kind of hard. Or when you do one line over and over and over and over again. And
sometimes one line can take an hour, especially with me. I always start to laugh. I don't know why, obviously.
But Victor's really good about helping you, taking a break or playing a CD that makes you laugh.
You have to add your own personality into the character while playing a different character at the same time, if that makes sense. when we're doing the voices, there's some parts where, you know, you think, well, maybe I should do this or that, and Victor's really open to, you know, maybe what you want to do instead. And you just kind of work with what sounds good, really. I'm able to speak the part of Ruby basically in my own voice, and Bill somehow, I don't know how he does it, makes the voice higher.
Huh! Oh, great! Don't tell me you're hearing voices now!
I'm working on a computer system that has a Pro Tools editing system. And in there, I have pitch shifting capabilities. I can reverse the sound. I can do just a myriad of different things to that sound to make it sound like what I want. The sampling rate on the Japanese version of the game is so low, so I have to recreate all the sound effects, humming crystals and everything. Well, there's 30-some animations, and in the more complex ones, there's, you know, there might be 100 sound effects or so that are, you know, individually placed and filed. And many times, a particular sound by itself is not enough. I'll take one sound, and I may layer 2 or 3 other seemingly unrelated sounds, and when I get done, it all works together.
I have a crew of game testers now because Lunar is such an overwhelming project. We had to, we were going crazy. I was losing people to mental institutions left and right. I am, and to a large degree, a lot of the people here are perfectionists as far as the way they want to see the game run and look and be presented and such. So we'll constantly try to improve and improve and improve and improve. And at some point you just gotta say, stop, you gotta ship this game, let's get it out the door.
The numbers that I was given from the different retailers at the show are just huge for Lunar 2. Well, everything we do with all of our video games is very special and very unique. And with Lunar 2, we're doing more than we've ever done before with any video game.
The way we're presenting the game to the consumer exceeds even what they do in Japan, and they're the nuttiest gamers of all as far as what they get for options. And so we're bringing that to the US audience because we're nuts.
Mr. Shigema's other nickname is Shower Writer. Everything he writes includes a shower scene.
Hi, fans.
Yeah, Lunar's a great experience because of the fact that I have to burp right now, and I'm gonna slip it here sometime very soon. The whole time I'm talking, I have another one on deck.
And it'll probably slip out, I'm sure.
Buy more games.
Ouch. Are you taping? No, okay.
Oh, great! Don't even
Was it good?
My name is Kathy.
Victor says I'm a gold take. Gold take.
And so being insane, fortunately, has helped me.
Young, adventurous.
Horny.
Oh yeah, he's definitely horny.
Oh my god.
I haven't done it yet.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. That's a big question. Line.
I'm not telling.
Oh, what a tangled web we weave when we deceive.
And she doesn't have any clothes on. It's like everybody's favorite part, especially Victor.
Oh, yes.
Whoa, that sounds bad. I'm probably gonna get fired for that.
Dang! Well, at least we get good screw-ups.
Thank you very much.
はい、どうも。
Let's enjoy.